Hi, everyone. My name is Gail Nicolai, recently Dr. Gail Nicolai, and I selected the article by Angie Miles, representing Mary Dyer. Meyer's article dealt with the antinomian controversy that occurred in the Massachusetts Bay Colony between 1636 and 1638. It was a period of political and religious dissent between the Puritans and the Quakers, and it pitted many of the magistrates and the ministers against followers of John Cotton. Mary Dyer was a prominent female Puritan dissident. However, according to Meyer, she was overshadowed by the more historically known Anne Hutchinson. If we look at a timeline for that period for Mary Dyer, Myers gives us a timeline where 1633, Mary married William Dyer. He was a wealthy milliner. They married in England and then in 1635 settled in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Between 1654 and 1657, Mary left William and her six children and resettled back in England during that period, in which time she became a Quaker. In 1657, William was, as part of the antinomian controversy, he was banished from the colony, and he chose to settle in Rhode Island. Mary joined him there. Between 1657 and 1659, Mary returned to Boston. Each time she returned, she was arrested. On October 27th, 1659, she was arrested, tried, and convicted, and she was sent to the gallows. She was given a reprieve while she was on the gallows. After she was given her reprieve, she wrote a letter to the court which bore witness to her faith. But she once again returned to Boston after being banished, and she was arrested and she was executed on the gallows on the 1st of June, 1660. In the article, the author referred to Mary Dyer's letter to the court after her initial reprieve from the gallows as a testimony of her virtue and strength. However, further research reveals that the handwriting and the wording of that letter do not match any of Mary Dyer's earlier writings. There is a theory that the letter was written by fellow Quaker Edward Burrough. He wrote it using her name and then making Mary a Quaker martyr. Mary Dyer's most famous words were spoken from the gallows, where she said, "Nay, I cannot go back to Rhode Island, for in obedience to the will of the Lord I came, and in his will I abide faithful to the death." The author proposed two elements to Mary Dyer's story. The first was the public drama of agency. While Dyer saw herself acting in God's will and power, the author of the article notes the vigorous intentionality in Dyer's engagement with the Puritan authorities in both her speech and her behavior. The other element the author recognized was allegiance, that Dyer enters into this public discourse through her allegiance through another woman, not anything to do, not her allegiance to the power of God's will in her life. The author presented her viewpoint as being a Quaker and a lesbian reader looking for a usable past to define the lesbian movement. She was equating the Quaker belief in equality with the political acts of feminism and the lesbian movement. Ultimately, I found it an interesting article. It shines some light on an important woman in American colonial history that has been kept in the dark for too long. The information is good, however, the author uses it in order to advance both her religious and political agenda.